Hey guys, what's going on? Max Finn here. Hope everyone's having an awesome day. Before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button below. Make sure to let me know. Look at my past videos. What do you like about them? What do you don't like about them? Hit the comments. Let me know what I can do better. What type of content you want me to cover? What questions you have for me? All that stuff I'm using. I'm trying to just mine as much data as possible. This is still something new to me, YouTube. And I want to make sure that the content I keep putting out there is as valuable as possible to as many people as possible, right? And the only way to know that is to get really good feedback from everyone watching the videos. And this kind of gets into what I want to talk about tonight. And that's really about future trends, about not resting on the past, not resting on what you did yesterday or last week or last year and the success you had, but instead looking at what's coming down the pipeline. And, one of the books that I'm reading right now, 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene, is a really, really fascinating book. And it's interesting because it takes a look at some of the greatest leaders throughout history, right? And it's not just like generals, it's also presidents, it's people like Ted Williams, baseball players, actors, actresses, people that just understood other people. They understood how to best set themselves up for success. And one of the most fascinating, consistent themes that kept coming up throughout the book was that whether it was Napoleon or Hannibal or Ted Williams, you can go through the whole list, all these incredible people that we all read about in history books, one of the things they had in common was their lack of focus on the past and their mindset on the future, right? And so you look at somebody like Ted Williams, and so Ted Williams, one of the greatest baseball players in history, one of the greatest hitters in history, was famous for not caring about his past at bats, right? So I played baseball all growing up. And one of the hardest things to do when you're a baseball player is when you strike out, not to constantly be thinking about it the rest of the game, right? So when you strike out, most people, they go back to the dugout and they're brewing. They're thinking about it. They're angry. They're getting emotional about it. And they're letting that at bat, and even if you get a home run, the same thing. They're letting that at bat dictate how they approach the next at bat. And Ted Williams was quoted as saying, like, this is obviously paraphrasing, but that no at-bat is the same, even against the same pitcher. Every single at-bat, every single pitch is unique and different. And so to look at the past and try to reminisce or study past at-bats or past pitchers and past interactions with them wouldn't provide any value. So he treated every pitch and every at-bat as its own isolated event. And that helped him be so incredible. Right. And then you look at other examples. You look at people like Napoleon. Hannibal's another good example we'll get to in a second. But Napoleon, who was one of the greatest generals in history, and he defeated armies and other generals that were way more experienced, way larger, way more advanced than his army and his knowledge. However, he didn't focus on the past. He didn't focus on what worked 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago. He used creativity and his insight in the moment to dictate strategy and how he was going to approach situation. So when he went to battle with the Prussians, the Prussians had one of the most advanced armies in history. They had been, conquerors for 60 years. They had generals that had been in the military for 40, 50 years, tons of experience. And they had this incredible army that marched in formation, had all these advanced movements, and they were professional soldiers, and they looked really impressive, right? If you were watching a parade. But they spent 6 weeks debating the strategy, right? And they were saying, well, this battle we did this, and this battle we did this, and we should use it again. And eventually the king had to come in and just compromise. By the time they came up with their own strategy for battle, Napoleon was already on their doorsteps. He had already marched on them because he was nimble. His troops had autonomy. They were not using the same systems technologies people used in the past, like wagons to move gear. They gave all their troops backpacks, so they carried their own gear on their back, which meant they could move a lot faster. When they went into battle, the Prussians had to wait to get orders to make decisions. So the troops were out there in battle, but in order to make decisions, they had to wait for the generals and the commanders to like give the order, and then the order would be passed on, and then they moved, and it looked great. But Napoleon's army, they had a level of autonomy and were able to make decisions in the moment without having to report back to command. And because of that, they were able to surround and destroy this army, the Prussian armies, really, really fast before the Prussian commanders could even counterattack and make different decisions, because it was already done and it was already finished. And so why am I talking about this? Why am I saying, telling you about Napoleon and Ted Williams and all these interesting examples? Well, one is, I think it's fascinating. I love history. And it's ironic. I'm talking about not, looking at your past to dictate your future. However, I think history is, you can learn a lot from it. You can learn a lot of what not to do as long as what to do, as long as it doesn't dictate why or justify why you're doing what you're doing. And I think one of the challenges, people get successful, and their success, they use that as a crutch to determine that why they're doing this, right? So I'm going to keep doing this funnel. I'm going to keep running this ad. I'm going to keep using this channel because this is what I've used for my entire career to get to this point. And because of that, I'm not going to change it. Why would I change it? It's worked, right? It's an easy argument to make. It's an easy thing to enforce that on your team. We're doing it this way because this is the way it's always been done and the way it works for us up until this point. But we need to keep in mind that at some point throughout history, with every great innovation, revolution, there's been somebody that made their fortune and became very successful doing something that is no longer relevant, right? So when the printing press came around, when the wheel came around, when the automobile came around, right? There was always somebody that was the top person pushing horses, right? The top person pushing the need to, use pen and scribes and paper. The top person pushing, newspaper ads, right? Whatever it might be, there was always somebody that made their career and living because at the time that was the groundbreaking technology innovation, but it no longer is, right? And so what we're really focused on, and kind of to get to the point of this video, there's a few things that I want to share. And just kind of spark a dialogue and spark a conversation. And lately I've been kind of turning on the camera and talking and more just letting things come out, not having a clear agenda or structure, right? There's some videos I put out where it's here's a specific strategy and tactic and thing to do, right? And I do that a lot. But I also like having this kind of open session where I can kind of just talk and see where it takes me. And if people are interested in it, they keep listening. If not, they can scroll forward and see if maybe there's something interesting down there. But for me, I find that when I have this kind of open forum to chat, just like Joe Rogan, these people have these 3-hour podcasts, a lot of amazing things can happen when they kind of open the format and don't have a clear agenda and like, I'm going to talk about this, this, and this right now. But this kind of hits at the point, which is, I think right now, where we're seeing technology going and what's happening on the paid traffic platforms with Facebook and Google and user privacy and everything that we're seeing happening, all these kind of signs around us, it's become AI and machine learning. It's becoming more and more clear that creativity is one of, if not the single greatest asset that we can have as entrepreneurs and marketers, right? Creativity is our X factor. Creativity is the thing that'll ensure we don't get trapped in a outdated platform or an outdated way of thinking. And the people that aren't creative, the people that are very, very focused on a specific platform, have challenges staying competitive, have challenges increasing their income, continuing to make more and more money. And that's actually why specialists, there's this interesting article that came out talking about, I don't know if it's the Wall Street Journal or New York Times, basically why as you get more educated, so as your degrees increase and your level of education increase, your salary floor increases. However, the ceiling also decreases, which is interesting, right? So you'd think the more degrees I get, not only does my base, the floor, my kind of minimum salary increase, but my ceiling should also increase. What they found, though, is that it doesn't happen that way. Sure, the more degrees you get, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, right, your minimum salary is going to move up. It's going to be much higher than a GED or a bachelor's degree. However, what they found is because you're getting so specialized, your opportunities outside of school are limited, right? So if you are a PhD, doctor, right, you have like 3 different degrees, you have 3 different titles, you have very limited options career-wise, right? So you can work as a researcher in a high paying job at a lab, right, a think tank, or you can kind of be a professor. Like there's very limited paths, right? And those are great jobs, right? They're high paying jobs. That's why the floor increases. But because you're kind of pigeonholed, because you've been so focused on becoming the smartest at one thing, right? Your ability to really think outside the box and be creative outside of that scope, your pursuit of other knowledge during that time where you've been focused on achieving that goal has been limited, right? And so you look at the reason why a lot of the self-made billionaires don't have master's degrees, don't have PhDs, right? A good amount actually dropped out of college, right? They just have a GED. It's because they don't have that ceiling, right? They didn't specialize yet. And because they didn't specialize yet and go too far down a path, they didn't get put into a corner and pigeonholed creatively. So they're able to be much more nimble. They're able to consume information from a lot of different areas, and be more dynamic, right? And so when you look at like what are big companies looking at hiring, Google and Facebook, what's important to them when they're hiring people? They're all saying the same thing. They're all saying creativity is the thing we're looking at, not GPA, not your your recommendations. There's all these tangible things, but they're looking at, if we confront this person with a problem, how do they solve it? Because that's what matters, right? You can have all the facts in the world, you can have all the data in the world, but if you can't use that data to take action in a way that's the most powerful and efficient, it doesn't matter, right? Because that's what we're all doing every day. We're all of us in every job we have, we are being given data and we're asked to make decisions. We're asked to take actions based on that data. And the people that are making the most money, people that are making the most impact, are the ones that are able to most creatively take those inputs and create outputs. And so when I think about what does the future look like for digital marketing, and kind of my concerns for students of mine and people that I see in this industry who are doing well and starting to move full steam ahead, is their hyper focus on platforms, right? So going back to that higher degree discussion, where the more advanced you get, the more specialized you get, sure, the more stable things get, the more money you'll make compared to most people, but you're also limiting your ability to expand beyond that. And so when I look at what I've done the last few years, I know I went really deep on Facebook, right? Facebook is the thing that most people know me for. It's the thing I speak about most at events. However, I recognized probably 6 months ago that this was becoming a thing. And I started making a conscious effort to diversify, right? And so a lot of events I've spoken at recently, I've talked about topics bigger than Facebook, right? So at iStack in San Diego, I spoke about how we're structuring deals and how I think agencies and consulting firms should be structuring deals in 2019 and 2020 beyond the typical percent of ad spend. How we're creatively thinking about building assets and JVs with our partners, not just looking at them as clients, right? So I've been making a conscious effort to do that, and I've been really, when I created the new course, so I'm paid traffic training, my new course is almost done, and I think part of the reason why my first course has held up, even though it's almost 2 years old, is because a lot of it is not inside ad manager showing how to build things out. A lot of it is me on camera on a whiteboard talking about strategies, talking about understanding consumer psychology. And at the end of the day, we as marketers, entrepreneurs, business owners, what we are trying to do every day is convince people who have never heard of us before to take their wallet out of their pocket, take a credit card out, and give us money. Like, that is what, at the end of the day, a lot of us are trying to do every single day. We're trying to get that person to pay attention, to engage them, and to convert them into a paying customer, right? And obviously it's very simplistic, and there's lots of steps to do that, and there's lots of things that happen beyond that. But that is the goal for most businesses, is to get more customers, to sell more products, to make more money, right? And if you can understand what motivates people, right? Like at a fundamental emotional, psychological level, what is it about your target customers that drives them? What do they want in life? What are their struggles in life? What are things that they're encountering, hurdles and challenges? And if they had help, they would be happy. Like those are things that I think are so important to understand and to study as marketers, because if you can understand those elements and you can understand how to attack them, the right buttons to push, when to push those buttons, how to overcome objections in the proper way, in the efficient sequence, then it doesn't matter what happens to Facebook next year. It doesn't matter if AR or VR or smart speakers or whatever it might be it becomes the new technology platform, the new ad platforms, right? It doesn't matter if the internet goes down and we're back to newspapers, right? And TV. Like, all of these things that we have today are great. Having more advanced targeting features, having pixels for better tracking and better attribution. It all helps us. It all makes our jobs easier. But if you get too dependent on the platform, if you get too dependent on the bells and whistles and hacks, you start to lose that ability and understanding of what true marketing and advertising really is, right? And true marketing and advertising is platform agnostic, right? It's this ability to understand your target demographic, who they are, what they are, why they are the way they are, why they think the way they think, what are their motivations, their goals, their aspirations, what are their challenges, what are their hurdles, what are the problems that they have in their daily life that if those problems were solved, they would have a better life, they'd be happier. And how can we best take our product and put it in front of that person so they understand that this will help them do that, right? And so again, that's why you don't see any major multi-billion-dollar, even a few $100 million company that just runs Facebook ads or just runs TV ads or just runs newspaper ads or just runs influencer marketing, right? You just don't see it because companies like Apple and Nike and Coke and Geico, and you go through the list, they understand that marketing is beyond a platform. Marketing is the ability to creatively get that message in front of the right person at the right time to motivate them to take a specific action, right? And they're able to do that differently on different platforms. And so if we're looking at the next 5 to 10 years, what we need to understand as marketers is that the way we communicate with the way we kind of deliver ads to our target customers, to our prospects will change, right? Without a doubt. The medium, the distribution mechanism, the tracking, all of that will change in the next 5 to 10 years, without a doubt, right? There's no doubt in my mind that there will be radically different channels, ad channels, right? Whether it's AR or VR or a resurgence of audio through smart speakers and AI assistants like Siri and Echo and stuff, and Alexa. So if you know that's on the horizon, then we as marketers need to start preparing for that, right? Obviously, I can't start building ads for some VR platform that I don't know anything about yet, or some AR platform I don't know anything about yet. But what I can do is make sure that I know my target customer better than anybody else in the world. And not just at a superficial level, but I know them at a deep, personal, emotional level. And I know consciously and subconsciously what is driving them, right? And I have the right messaging in place. I have the right stories and narratives and objection blocking and the right buttons to push. And I have all of that in place. So when a new ad platform comes out, I know that I have the right messages to put on there, right? Now it becomes the name of the game is, well, I got to put the right creative format in place. Right now, maybe it's instead of a 15-second story ad, it's a minute-long audio ad, or I need to have some type of voice actor create a series of Q&A responses for an AI assistant, whatever it might be. That's just the medium, right? And all that should do, if you know the things I just mentioned, you're able to think creatively and outthink your competition. All of that should do is just help you. It should make you more effective. And the way I look at it too, because I know a lot of people, maybe people have been watching this video, and let me know if you're watching this right now and you're still with me and you agree that creativity is the single greatest asset that marketers can have. If you agree with that, let me know in the comments. If you don't agree with it, let me know what you think the greatest attribute that marketers should have is, because I am curious about that. But I was actually having a call earlier today with a friend of mine, and what I was telling him, because he was asking, well, how do you prepare for to be ready for new ad channels, right? How do you even do that? And I said, well, you can't, but what you can do is you can be as prepared as possible and you can be ahead of the competition, because what most businesses do is they wait for an ad platform to launch, essentially, right? So they wait for Facebook to launch an ad platform, and then for people to start using the ad platform, and then they learn it and they jump in, right? And they come in when it's mature. So they wait for the company to launch the ad platform. What I want to do is actually they wait for the company to launch and they wait for the consumers to adopt it and then they jump in. So basically advertisers are always following the consumers and the consumers are following the hardware and software companies, service providers, right? What I want to do is I want to look at, well, what are the companies doing, right? I'm going to skip the consumers and I want to look at what are the companies doing? What are the big players in the space doing right now? What are they investing in right now? What are Apple and Google and Facebook and Amazon, these massive players? What technology are they investing billions of dollars in? What roles are they hiring for, right? And now I can start making educated assumptions about what they're going to be building, right? What hardware and software they're going to be building. And I can start putting plans together based on those potential outcomes, right? I'm not going to go crazy with those plans, right? We don't have a VR marketing strategy. But I feel pretty confident if I know that, all the big $500 billion tech companies are all investing heavily in AR, that there will be some type of AR product comes to the market. And if that comes to the market, if Apple and Google and Amazon all come out with an AR product, that chances are great that consumers will mass adopt an AR product, which means that advertisers want to reach those consumers. And that'll be through AR, right? And so it's making educated assumptions based on the investments the companies are making, not the moves the consumers are making, is how we're looking at kind of what the future looks like from an ad standpoint. But anyway, to wind things down here, because I know we went down some channels today. I think to do a quick recap, when looking at where I'm investing my time right now as a marketer, as a business owner, it is in consuming as much educational content across as many platforms as possible, not to master platforms, but instead to master the understanding of consumer psychology, of buyer psychology, of what drives people, of what great leaders have done throughout history to achieve success, right? I think if you can become a master at that, then the channels aren't as important, right? Because you can always find great people who are very technical and will be, technical wizards on AdWords or YouTube or Facebook. But they're still going to need that big picture strategy, right? The visionary who can think about building out an entire flow from taking these ice cold prospects to making them a lifetime customer, right? How do I get from A to Z? And it's not just, hey, run one Facebook ad sequence. That's not how you do it, right? It's going to be a comprehensive strategy that involves landing pages, email sequences, messenger sequences, upsell sequences. It's going to involve multiple paid traffic sources, retargeting. That retargeting, all those ads are going to involve videos, copy. The sales page are going to involve copy, right? There's going to be so many touch points, so many variables in this ecosystem, and somebody needs to be the person that looks at it at a high level and is able to map that out. That's the person that's going to command the most value, right? In terms of dollar per hour, in terms of what they can sell their services and knowledge for. The person that can look at the problem and creatively come up with a solution that combines elements from all these different channels and brings together the right players. That's what everyone should be striving on the marketing side, is getting to that level, right? And again, I look at people that I look up to, mentors of mine. That's exactly what they've done, right? They started out as, the e-commerce guy, the Facebook ad guy, the Pinterest person, whatever it might be. And they realized that, hey, dominating one platform is not enough. To build a true 8-9 figure plus company, you need to have multiple there's traffic channels. I need to have a lot of different traffic channels. I need to have elaborate funnels. I need to understand this, I need to understand all this, right? I need to be able to map it out, connect all the pieces, and get the right talent that's masters at each one of these, right? That can get down and dirty in all the little details, right? But if you don't have that big picture to start, and you don't have the direction, the creative thinking, or the creative planning, none of that matters, right? Because then it's just an isolated piece that doesn't connect with anything, right? One little Facebook sequence on its own without a great landing page and great copy and great follow-up and great creative isn't very valuable. So I encourage everybody that's watching this to constantly be consuming information, right? don't just rest on your success. Don't just assume that because you're you're one of the best Facebook advertisers in the world, or you're one of the best YouTube advertisers in the world, that you are now the top of your craft in marketing, right? Because marketing is way beyond YouTube ads. It's way beyond Facebook ads. You should always be studying, and it shouldn't be just tactical stuff, right? I find I consume maybe 20-30% of my content is tactical, platform specific. The other 70-80% is much broader, right? It's books like 33 Strategies of War, right? Where it's not technically a marketing book, but it's so insightful and so valuable. And I've taken so many lessons away from that, just that one book, that can be implemented into my business, into our marketing, across clients, across brands. And that's really, really valuable to anybody that's a marketer, an entrepreneur, or a business owner in our space. So again, let me know what you guys think about this video. Let me know what you think about creativity as a valuable skill set. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments what you think. And more importantly, hit that subscribe button so you can see future videos from me. Thanks, guys.